I really think that post-Dobbs, for millions and millions of women who said, what? We're the majority, or what? I live in a blue state, or what? They're never going to reverse Roe v. Wade. It was such a wake-up call. How can it be the case that in states where you're 50-50 states, but they've been gerrymandered so that you have only, 4 seats of a 14 seats in a legislature? How this happened is because the system has been distorted so that you matter less and less. Now we know, you can win all the lawsuits in the world and you can vote and vote and vote. And if the system is so distortive of popular opinion and popular will, then it's the system that's the problem.
Dahlia Lithwick is a senior editor at Slate. She covers law, justice, and the courts. And she has a new book called Lady Justice: Women, the Law, and the Battle to Save America. We've been continuously traumatized. You talk about this a lot. November 2016, I woke up thinking, what just happened there? I thought I could just vote every 4 years and that was enough. Your book walks us through then women getting angry and women doing something about it, all the way from the Muslim ban to Dobbs even. I mean, how many times did you rewrite this book?
I did rewrite both the introduction and the conclusion, the epilogue, and the abortion chapter, just in the very short days after Dobbs. But I think post-2020, for me, the turn really was, now's not the time to give up. And for all the people who said after 2020, and, I write about this a lot too, the system held because January 6th didn't fully rise to the level of a, violent, bloody coup that stopped the vote count. And so I think the work changed after 2020, and it's not an accident that the last 3 chapters are about voting, because I think that's work urgently needed now. But I think that, to me, what I realized, and you, I think, can feel this through the arc of the book, you can win all the lawsuits you want, but if the system is broken and, in fact, being exploited to further corrode the system, then we're all screwed. So for me, I think the book kind of ends up between 2020 and 2022, where we can say the system held, but it didn't really. Mm-hmm. Or we can say the system, we MacGyvered it to get through one federal election. I'm not sure it's going to work in future. And what can we do right now to fix the problems of access to voting, inequality, the incredible violence we're perpetrating on women? That's stuff we have to do now. And so I think that's why we land up in this, I think, quasi-hopeful place, which is what we're seeing all through this, November, which is if women show up, they can tell Kansas no. If women show up, they will tell Michigan no. They will tell Alaska no. And that, I think, is an incredibly empowering thing. And I don't feel nearly as desolate when I frame it that way.
You mentioned the system held, and that was one of the things that really, really stuck with me, because some people thought when Joe Biden steps into the White House, things are going to change. It's all going to be different. And we've seen what's happened. The system is what's broken. And it's only through us getting to work and organizing that things are going to change. Do I have that right?
That's completely right. And I think the good news is we all realized that, this is structural. This isn't about, we're 50% of the population, or I live in a state where 80% of the population wants to have reproductive freedom. That doesn't matter if you do away with meaningful representation. And I think that leap is really hard, to get from the court decided abortion. What does that tell me about, living under a juristocracy where 9 unelected judges just impose their will on the people? And the good news is, all of that stuff is being worked on, right? Smart people are working on the Electoral Count Act. Smart people are working on state gerrymandering commissions. Smart people, this is not stuff we have to invent, but it is stuff I think we have to pour energy into, because it turns out just thinking, if I just care about, LGBTQ issues, or I just care about the environment, that's enough. And I vote on that, that's enough. Now we know, you can win all the lawsuits in the world and you can vote and vote and vote. And if the system is so distortive of popular opinion and popular will, then it's the system that's the problem. I do think people get that now.
I think we're beginning to wisen up to it. I think, to be fair, I think Black folks have known about this much longer than white folks have. I think the reason the overturning of Roe, I mean, that's what shook us up.
I'm so glad you said that, Mary, because one of the things that I trace through the book is the time that, Professor Carol Anderson said to me, Black people have always voted this way. You're mad in Georgia that you have to stand in line for 6 hours. Let me tell you, it has always been like this if you were Black. And when Catherine Franke said to me in an interview, Black women have never had reproductive freedom in this country. You thought that Roe was this bulletproof armor. If you're a Black woman in Mississippi, this was a paper right that never afforded you the kind of protection. And so I think that what you're saying is exactly descriptively correct, which is the great leveling that has happened. People of privilege, people who are white, people who thought, like, I'm a good, virtuous person, I vote, look around and realize that the country was always fundamentally anti-democratic for many, many people. But I think to be down here together and to realize that this was never fair, and by the way, it was designed to be unfair, is really, really an important piece of kind of being awake.